He texted, "You're not welcome," right after I paid his house. The shocking truth revealed. It all started with a text. A message that sent ripples of chaos through a town that never expected to be shaken. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the quiet street. Home. Sweet home. But for Samantha, home was about to become a nightmare. She had just handed over the last of her savings to buy her dream property, an old Victorian that whispered secrets of the past. It needed love, but it was hers now. Or so she thought. The moment she clicked send on the payment, her heart raced with excitement. But as she turned to her phone to celebrate, an incoming message lit up the screen. "You're not welcome." Cold. Chilling. The words echoed in her mind like a dark chant. Who could be so cruel? And why would they care? No one had ownership of that house except her. Samantha's mind spiraled into confusion. A brief flurry of thoughts consumed her. Was it the previous owner? A neighbor she hadn't met? The old stories whispered about the ghost that haunted the hallways, tying its fate to the house, but she never truly believed them until now. The air felt thicker, almost electric. She could almost taste the tension, salty and heavy. A shadow flickered in the corner of her vision, making her jump. She turned quickly, but the street remained empty, save for the rustling leaves and the distant hum of cars. She glanced again at her phone, the screen still glowing ominously. What did it mean? Panic clawed at her throat, she could feel the lump forming. She had to know. She dialed the number of the previous owner, her heart in her throat. The line rang endlessly, spiraling her deeper into uncertainty. Then, finally, a voice answered, smooth but laced with something dark. "Why did you buy it?" The question hung heavy in the air. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Samantha felt a chill creep up her spine. Why would anyone care who owned the house? The sense of dread was suffocating, and her hands shook as the voice on the other end continued. "You should have left it alone. There are things in there best untouched." Silence swallowed her. What was buried in those walls? Was it just old stories, or was she stepping into something far more sinister? The weight of the phone felt heavier, as if it might shatter her reality with one more word. Maybe returning to the house was a mistake, but curiosity gnawed at her. She had to go back. Something drew her in a magnetic pull. What if she uncovered the truth behind that ominous warning? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the town into a twilight gloom that felt alive, as if the very air whispered secrets meant only for her ears. She took a deep breath, heart pounding, and turned toward the shadowy figure stalking her thoughts. What awaited her inside those walls? One thing was certain, she was not alone. Samantha stood at the edge of her new property, clenched fists trembling at her sides. Shadows danced across the weathered porch of the Victorian, teasing her with the history it harbored. That unsettling text gnawed at her, each line echoing like an intruder in her mind. She stepped forward, propelled by a mix of trepidation and a fierce need for answers. The front door creaked open, groaning like it hadn't been touched in years. As she stepped inside, a rush of stale air enveloped her, laced with the scent of long-forgotten memories. Every crack in the walls seemed to resonate with voices from the past, begging her to listen. What had that voice meant? What was she uncovering? The living room lay in shadows, the last remnants of daylight sneaking through the dusty, tattered curtains. Her heart raced. Was it just her, or did the air feel heavier within these walls? She hesitated, glancing around the room. Furniture draped in sheets, dust motes floating like little ghosts of the past. Samantha moved to a nearby window, peeling back the curtain and revealing tangled gardens overrun by neglect. She felt eyes on her. The prickling sensation crawled up her neck. Was someone watching? Then she caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of her eye, but when she turned, nothing was there. She brushed off the unease. It must be her imagination. The tension wouldn't let her breathe, and she needed to investigate. If there is something here, she thought, I need to find it. Pulling out her phone again, she snapped a picture of a massive ornate mirror framed in intricately carved wood. The glass was murky, reflecting a distorted version of herself. She didn't like how it looked back at her. Just as she turned to leave the room, the floor creaked. She froze, her breath hitching in her throat. Hello? She called out, her voice quaking. Silence was her only reply. The shadows began to shift and sway in the corners, malicious and inviting at the same time. Gripping her phone tightly, she maneuvered through the twisty hallways, each step echoing into the silence. Curiosity bit at her heels. She couldn't resist exploring. She found a door that was slightly ajar and pushed it open. It led to what had once been a study. Dark wood panels and an uneasy feeling clung around her. An overwhelming sense of oppression filled the air. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from the room upstairs, thumping in rhythmic pursuit. Her heart raced faster than ever. Was someone else in the house? She darted back into the hallway, straining to hear above the pounding of her heart. The footsteps halted abruptly, an ominous pause that seemed to freeze time itself. No way, she whispered, her mind spinning. Was it the previous owner? Or something worse? Her instincts screamed at her to leave, but something deeper held her in place, a magnetic pull toward the stairs. She couldn't ignore the beckoning. As if in a trance, she ascended, each step draining her resolve. On the second floor, the air felt ancient, heavy with the weight of history, secrets dripping from the walls. Then she saw it, the door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar, flickering light seeping into the dark corridor. Samantha approached it, a mix of dread and determination coursing through her. What awaited her beyond? And then, just as she reached for the doorknob, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. A message lit up the screen with an all-too-familiar tone. You should have left it alone. Just as shadows shifted once more, Samantha's heart pounded louder than ever. What would she find on the other side? What was waiting, ready to confront her? The doorknob felt cool against her palm, her body tense with uncertainty. Samantha took a deep breath, hoping to steady her racing heart, but it only quickened. She twisted the knob gently, the creaking door parting slowly, revealing the dimly lit room beyond. Inside, the atmosphere was eerily beautiful. Walls lined with bookshelves crowded with dusty tomes and framed photographs, their subjects peering out with hollow eyes. A flickering lamp cast shadows that danced like specters, morphing in and out of shape. In the center of the room stood a small wooden desk, cluttered with yellowed papers. Intrigued, she moved closer, compelled to uncover whatever secrets these walls might hold. Suddenly, a sharp noise pierced the air, something heavy dropping above. Samantha jumped, her heart pounding. It was easy to dismiss these things as creaks of an old house, but something about it felt intentional, malicious. Get a grip, she muttered to herself. But the unease was swelling. She scanned the desk, finding an assortment of letters, their scribbled words faded with age. As she picked one up, her fingers brushing against a frayed edge, she noticed a name at the top that sent chills down her spine, Evelyn Hart. The same name from the message that haunts her thoughts. Why was this here? She whispered, clutching the letter tightly. A thick tension filled her chest. With shaky hands, she opened it, the ink bleeding into her vision. It spoke of unspeakable horrors, unending nightmares of the very house she now stood in. Just then, the air shifted. Another noise, more distinct this time, echoed down the hallway. It was heavier footsteps, but not from above, they were coming from behind her. Panic surged. She had to see, but dread gripped her, holding her in place like a vice. Samantha forced herself to turn. The shadows seemed alive, pulsating ominously. She strained her ears, trying to catch the sound again when sudden silence. Tension coiled in her stomach. Should she stay put or make a run for it? then she remembered the text. You should have left it alone. Was it a warning? Or a dare? A flicker in the corner of her vision movement. A shadow drifted near the doorway behind her. She squinted, focusing through the dim light. Nothing and no one appeared solid. Breathing heavily, she reached for her phone, the screen illuminating her face as she dialed 911 out of instinct. But before she could hit call, the phone buzzed again, rattling in her palm like a trapped creature. Leave now, Samantha. The message made her blood run cold. It felt like a breath on her neck, chilling, whispering secrets she couldn't handle. Summoning her courage, she turned back to the desk. The letter slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the ground. It felt as though the house was urging her to read more, to dive deeper into whatever twisted history lay tangled within its walls. I can't be scared away, she murmured, a quiet determination firing within her. But then the shadows deepened, and the temperature dropped. Something was here with her, something that thrived on her fear. The door behind her, the entrance she had just walked through, began to close on its own, inch by inch. She realized she was not alone in this house. Samantha lunged forward, aiming for the door, but her foot stumbled over something on the floor. She looked down just in time to see the letter she had dropped now lying in disarray. Confused, she could feel the urgency creeping back in. Get out! A voice hissed, quiet yet fierce, echoing from the shadows that surrounded her. Firm and demanding, with adrenaline surging, she pushed the door open wide, determined to escape. But as she crossed the threshold, a final wave of darkness swept over her. Her body froze in place. The entrance led to her freedom, but deeper into the house loomed something she couldn't ignore. Shadows transformed into figures, their faces flashing before her, reflecting both malice and tragedy. This was only the beginning. What were they trying to reveal? What truth lay hidden in the folds of this haunted house? Samantha took a step backward, her heart racing. The conversation with the past wasn't over, it had only just begun. Would she dare to confront it? Samantha's heart raced as the shadows swirled around her, defiant reminders of the house's hidden terrors. She stumbled backward into the room, the door slamming shut with a finality that felt like a thunderclap in her chest. This was no longer just a house, this was a living entity, a breathing corridor of fear and secrets. Stay calm, she whispered, though her voice trembled. She felt every hair on her body rise, an electric charge in the air warning her. The shadows morphed at the corners of her vision, flickering with a life of their own. Just beyond her reach lay the truths tangled in the dusty tomes. Glancing back at the desk, she felt magnetized. The yellowed papers and letters called to her like sirens beckoning sailors into treacherous waters. She inhaled deeply, the stale air stinging her lungs, and stepped further into the room. The immediate threat of the door vanished, replaced by the pressing knowledge that whatever lurked within these walls was drawn to her presence. Evelyn Hart, she murmured, recalling the name that had haunted her thoughts. The letter she had opened before echoed in her mind, speaking of nightmares and unending darkness. Curiosity battled with fear as she remembered the warnings sent to her phone. Turning to the shelves, Samantha reached for a book that caught her eye, bound in cracked leather with a faded title. It felt as if the house held its breath in anticipation. She hesitated for a moment, before her fingers brushed against the spine. The moment she lifted the book, a shudder raced through the room, rattling the dust from the shelves. As the book opened, the pages revealed sketches, twisted drawings of the very house she stood in, complete with scrawled annotations in manic handwriting. The text spoke of rituals and sacrifices, of a family who had once lived there, their despair etched into every line. To escape the darkness, one passage stated, the truth must be revealed. Truth, she echoed, confused. Suddenly, a sharp noise broke the air. The violent thud of footsteps resonated above her. It was heavier now, more pronounced, and something primal tripped in her stomach. She snapped her head toward the ceiling, straining to listen. It was a warning, or perhaps an invitation. Something wanted her to venture deeper into the house's secrets. Please, she said softly, willing the shadows to give her clarity rather than fright, but the shadows drew closer, swirling like a tempest. As if in response to her plea, the flickering light above dimmed to a heartbeat pulse, and her heart synced with it, the rhythm quickening. In that moment, she had the unsettling feeling that the house craved her fear, thrived on her hesitation. Fight it, she told herself, gripping the book tighter. She refused to be just another ghost story whispered in the dark. That a figure appeared at the edge of her vision, dark and looming, almost human but not quite. Its outline shifted like smoke, shaping into something more substantial. Samantha's breath caught, her survival instinct screaming at her to flee, but unfinished business tethered her to the spot. "Who are you?" she demanded, voice shaking but fierce. The figure loomed closer, features blurring into rage and sorrow. "Foolish girl," it echoed, its voice a chilling wind, "do you not see? The truth is a heavy burden." With that, a cold wind rushed through the room, knocking the books from the shelves and sending papers scattering like wild birds. The very walls seemed to scream a warning, enveloping her in despair, heart pounding. Samantha backed up to the desk, trying to maintain her ground against the chaos swirling around her. Would uncovering the truth bring the end, or would it cast her deeper into the shadows? In that frenzied moment, something crashed against the door behind her, an urgent thud that jolted her focus. The ground trembled, the house protesting against her presence as if aware of the storm brewing within. With a primal scream, she faced the figure, her heart alight with a raw determination. "I will know. I have to know." As she stepped forward, the ethereal figure retreated slightly, shadows bending away from her resolve. The room around her pulsed with dark energy, a tension ready to snap like a coiled spring. What awaited her in the confrontation with the dark secrets of Evelyn Hart? What unearthly truth lay in the heart of this elegant nightmare? Samantha stood poised at the cliff's edge of revelation, ready to leap. But the story was far from over. Samantha's breath quickened as the house groaned, the very foundation beneath her feet trembling. The figure loomed, a swirling mass of shadows, and she could almost feel its sorrow mingling with its fury. Fear coiled tightly in her gut, yet she could not look away. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but the allure of the unknown anchored her. "What do you want?" she finally managed to say, her voice steadying with each word. The shadows flickered, teasing the edges of her peripheral vision, as if assessing her resolve. "Your curiosity will be your undoing," it whispered, the voice slithering through the air like smoke. "The truth is not simply revealed, it's earned." With a sudden, frantic noise, the door behind her shuddered violently, slamming from the impact of whatever lay waiting outside. It shook her from her trance, pushing adrenaline through her veins, fueling her desire to escape. But escape into what? The very thought of facing whatever thrived outside paralyzed her. "What truth?" she spat, frustration rising. "What do I have to do?" The figure shifted slightly, the shadows swirling fiercely around it as if caught in an emotional storm. In that moment, a memory surged through Samantha's mind, a fleeting image of Evelyn Hart's grave, deep and overgrown with weeds, hidden away in a forgotten corner of the cemetery. It felt like a puzzle piece snapping into place. "Evelyn," Samantha whispered, her heart racing not just with fear but with sudden clarity. "Did you suffer? What happened to you?" The figure paused, and a heavy silence enveloped the room. The air grew damp, and a chill crept into her bones. It studied her, as if trying to decide whether she was friend or foe. Only the sound of her own breathing filled the suffocating space. "Find her grave," it finally said, its voice softer but laced with despair. "To truly understand, you must confront the pain that binds us." Before she could respond, the shadow surged, crashing against her with a gale-force wind that sent her sprawling backward. The book slipped from her fingers, the pages flapping wildly as it soared through the air, landing open on the floor. Samantha's heart raced as she scrambled to her feet, her gaze catching the faintest flicker from the pages now marred by chaos. Words leaped out at her, passages that seemed more urgent now, almost pulsing under the weight of her revelation. She moved forward, despite the unsettling energy that hummed around her. Her fingers traced the sketches of the house, piecing together ancient rituals that felt impossibly personal. Could these people truly connect with her? With Evelyn, suddenly, the air thickened, heavy like a storm cloud about to burst. The figure trembled violently, its sorrowful essence rippled as if ready to dissolve entirely. "No, don't go!" Samantha shouted, her own voice shaking with desperation. "I'll find her grave. I will uncover the truth." But as the last words left her lips, a piercing shriek echoed from behind the door. It wasn't human. It was wild, untamed, echoing with agony that reverberated through the walls, shaking her resolve to its core. Beside her, the door rattled furiously as whatever lurked outside attempted to break through. The ominous desperation in the sound sent chills spiraling down her spine. Should she stay and face the unknown, or flee to confront her fears? Time slowed, her heart thundered in her ears. She reached for the open book, feeling its warmth against icy hands. The very house seemed to lean in, eager for her next move. Secrets lay in wait, shadows shifting around her like dark dancers in a macabre ballet, drawing her closer to the precipice. "What is it?" she whispered to herself, eyes wide with dread and determination. "What do I need to do?" Just as she gripped the edge of the desk, the shadows bound her arm, tightening like a vice, igniting panic anew within her. And with that, a deep, bone-rattling roar rumbled through the house, crescendoing into an overwhelming cacophony. The shadows whirled violently, slamming against her senses as a figure breached the door, dark and looming, stepping into the room where truth awaited. What was about to be unleashed was more than she could have imagined, a revelation that would either save her or condemn her soul. Would she dare to unearth everything buried? The moment was crucial, and as the door creaked against the wall, Samantha knew she was standing on the brink of horrors unspeakable. The figure that emerged from the shadows was unlike anything Samantha had ever seen. It loomed larger than life, an amalgamation of darkness that seemed to flicker with every heartbeat. It wore a face stitched together from the remnants of lost souls. Eyes glimmered like dying stars, and within its presence, an air of torment surrounded her. Slowly, it stepped closer, the floor creaking underfoot. A shiver ran up Samantha's spine. This was no mere apparition, this was a harbinger of her past, a reminder that she could not escape her choices or their consequences. As the figure drew nearer, its voice emerged once more, haunting and fragile. "You've sought truth," it murmured, each word dripping with an ancient sorrow. "But truth isn't kind. It doesn't care for you or your understanding." Samantha's mind raced. The book lay open, echoing her desperate need for answers, a map to navigate the chaos that enveloped her. "What do you mean?" she pleaded, trying to grasp at comprehension amidst the despair. "Find her beneath the weight of decay and neglect," the figure continued, lifting its long, shadowy arm towards the southeast corner of the room. Dark tendrils of smoke twirled and beckoned as if pointing towards something hidden. Heart pounding, Samantha edged closer, instincts battling each other, fear and a primal need for the truth. She could feel the heavy weight of the figure's gaze on her back, piercing through her shell of bravado. Suddenly, the piercing screech outside grew louder, echoing through the walls. It sounded closer, like something was desperately trying to free itself from the void just beyond the door. Panic surged in her chest, a tidal wave of urgency pushing her toward a decision. Samantha reached for the shadows creeping across the floor. The darkness quivered, as if aware that she sought its secrets. She gripped the book tighter, drawing strength from the ancient incantations her fingertips brushed against. "What if I refuse?" she yelled, pushed by an instinctual rebellion against the ominous presence. The room vibrated with her challenge, a rising tension that wrapped around her like a noose. "Refusal is a luxury," the figure hissed, transforming before her eyes. It elongated and shrank until the shape was unrecognizable. "Your silence is a choice, and it chains you just as tightly. You think you can control me?" she shouted back, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. But doubt nibbled away at her resolve. With a sudden rush, the door broke open, slamming against the wall with a violent crack. A creature emerged, half-formed and drenched in raw anguish, eyes wide and wild. It was a grotesque mimicry of humanity, an embodiment of Evelyn's lingering pain and rage. Samantha stumbled back, the world swirling around her. The figure in shadow vanished, leaving her isolated in a shifting tide of chaos. "Help me!" the wretch cried, a raw plea that pierced through her, desperately searching for solace. "You must understand it's all your fault." The accusation knocked the breath from her. A surge of guilt, forged through years of unconfronted choices, gripped her heart. Samantha knew she had to act fast. Ignoring the shrieks and the darkness threatening to consume her spirit, she shouted, "I will find you, Evelyn. I swear." With each word, she felt the ground beneath her shake, responding to the intensity of her determination. The shadowy remnants around her throbbed, catching the vague semblance of hope in her voice like a moth drawn to light. As the creature advanced, writhing in agony, she could feel the weight of her own choice, heavy but necessary. But what awaited her beneath the grave of Evelyn Hart? Would it bring healing or open wider the fractures of her past? The abyss beckoned, pulsing with need. Samantha took a step forward, the resolve crystallizing within her even as a scream began to rise in her throat. "Will you follow it into darkness?" The lingering shadows whispered, teasing her with the possibility of unspeakable revelations. A deep breath steadied her as she prepared to confront whatever awaited her, all the while pondering which path would finally lead her to the truth, one steeped in pain or clarity. The choice was hers, but the answer hovered, just at the edge of the shadows. What would she unleash upon the world if she chose to uncover all? The answers shrouded in shadows awaited her decision, a haunting melody echoing in the depths of her soul. Samantha drew in a shaky breath, the familiar scent of decay enveloping her, thick and choking. She glanced back at the creature, its features twisting in torment. It was her failure, her guilt, all squeezed into this monstrous form. Pain pulsed through her like a drum, demanding attention. "Evelyn," she whispered, the name feeling both foreign and intimate. The creature stopped, recognition flickering in those wild eyes. In that moment, something within her shifted. Maybe this wasn't just a hunt for truth. Maybe it was about reconciliation, but could she really reach Evelyn through this wretched thing? Uncertainty clawed at her heart. She couldn't let fear win, or she'd never uncover the darkness that had haunted her for so long. The shadows wrapped tighter around her like chains, threatening to drag her down if she didn't act. The creature howled again, this time a guttural sound that resonated deep in the walls. "It's your fault," it cried, agony layered in every syllable. The scream twisted inside her, igniting memories she had buried. The sharp sting of regret stabbed at her gut. She had left Evelyn behind, alone in her suffering. "Stop!" Samantha shouted, her voice breaking the suffocating silence. "I won't let you drown me in this guilt any longer. Show me." The wretched figure froze at her command, its eyes widening as if it sensed a flicker of strength within her. The shadows shuddered, shifting in response. Slowly, a sense of clarity began to emerge from the chaos. She reached out a tentative hand, heart racing in anticipation. The creature hesitated, then lurched forward, its misformed limbs extending toward her. As their connection formed, black tendrils of despair enveloped her, pulling her toward the depths of the abyss beyond her vision. A darkness so profound that she felt it clawing at her sanity. She fought back, clenching her fist, embracing the raw energy around her. Visions exploded in her mind, flashes of Evelyn's last moments. A stormy night, tears soaking a worn teddy bear, urgent whispers echoing against stained walls. Memories played like a broken record, each note steeped in sorrow. It wasn't just her choices that had tangled Evelyn's fate, there were forces at work far beyond the two of them, pulling strings without their knowledge. "I didn't know." Samantha cried out, the truth spilling from her lips like a shattered dam. "I should have been there." In that moment of honesty, she felt a spark of connection unraveling the threads of darkness. The creature stilled, its monstrous facade softening. Just as it drew closer, a sharp, guttural roar erupted from the door, interrupting their fragile exchange. The walls shook, vibrating with a life of their own. Something else was trying to break through, something far worse than the darkness they were already entangled in. Samantha's heart raced faster. She couldn't let this chance slip away. "Stay with me, Evelyn," she yelled, shaking with urgency. The walls trembled again, more fervently this time, as if the house itself was rebelling against her plea. With every ounce of courage, she pressed on, determined to unearth the truth buried beneath endless suffering. "We can confront this together. I won't leave you again." But just as hope flickered, the door shattered off its hinges with a bone-rattling crash. A new horror spilled into the room, a shadow more substantial, darker than anything Samantha had faced before. It lunged into the space, and the air thickened as if trying to suffocate her. In the split second before it struck, a thunderous voice echoed around them, "You thought you could escape? You've only awoken what lies in wait." Samantha's world spiraled into chaos. The creature behind her writhed, caught between rage and desperation. It was no longer about a long-lost friend, it was a culmination of fears, revelations, and shattered pasts, bound to collide in a collision inevitable. What dark truths would the shadow reveal? And would Samantha find the strength to confront not only the entity before her but also the scars carved into her soul? The answers loomed ahead, obscured by an impending storm of rage and despair. What would be the ultimate price for clarity? The shadows around her held their breath, clamoring to reveal what lay beneath. Samantha braced herself as the shadow surged forward, its pitch-black form pulsing with a malignant energy that crackled in the air. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, forcing her into overdrive. The creature that had once harbored Evelyn's tortured essence now transformed into something far more sinister. "Evelyn!" she shouted, fighting against the paralysis that gripped her heart. Desperation punctuated her voice, and she could feel the weight of their past closing in around them, blending into the very darkness that threatened to engulf them both. The shadow laughed, a sound like shattering glass mixed with derision. "You're too late, Samantha. You've walked into a prison of your own making," it taunted, its voice echoing ominously around the room. The walls twisted and warped as shadows danced around them, threatening to swallow every glimmer of light. "No!" she screamed, not ready to surrender. "You may think you own her, but you're wrong. You don't know what she's capable of." The creature behind her twitched, an eerie tension rippling through its jointed frame, and even though it was warped and disfigured, she saw the flicker of recognition igniting within its eyes. It was still Evelyn, struggling to surface beneath all that anguish. "Evelyn!" Samantha called again, unlocking a part of her heart she thought was forever sealed. "I believe in you. Fight back." Suddenly, the shadow lunged, tendrils whipping out towards her like serpents winding through the thickening air. Time slowed, she ducked, feeling the whoosh as it passed over her. It crashed against the wall, leaving cracks that spiderwebbed outward, each fracture echoing the pain they all felt. Impressive, but futile. The dark entity screeched, its voice reverberating like thunder. "You've only given it more strength." With her heart hammering, she focused once more on the creature that bore Evelyn's pain. Pain twisted into clarity as she remembered the connection between them, the flickering flame of love that had bridged the years. "Whatever you are," she said, lowering her voice to a fierce whisper, "you can't erase the truth. Evelyn is still here. I can still feel her." For a heartbeat, there was silence as the shadows paused in their torment. The creature's frame shifted, flickering between monstrous and familiar. Her heart seized. This was the moment of vulnerability. Would Evelyn's essence rise from the ashes, or would they both succumb to despair? "Help me," a voice, soft and so achingly familiar, whispered from the creature's depths. It wavered like a candle in the wind. "Help me, Samantha." "Yes." She breathed, her body igniting with determination. "Together, we can fight it." But the dark shadow surged again, more vicious this time, clawing at the connection that was forming. Its words cut like an icy knife. "Do you think your love can shield you from the truth? This is not just my power, it is the collective consciousness of every mistake you've made." "No!" she cried out, grounding herself. The memories flooded back, illuminating faces intertwined with Evelyn's laughter, moments of pure joy that couldn't be snuffed out. How many tears were shed for you? You left me, the twisted voice continued, half lost in the cacophony of their shared past. And now you think words have power? With every bit of strength, Samantha screamed back, they do. As long as you're still here, I will fight. The air thickened once more, swirling between them, pulling at Samantha's resolve. She could sense the fight within Evelyn, a flicker of light pushed to the brink of extinguishment but desperate to break free. The battle escalated, shadows colliding with whispers of light in a chaotic dance, thickening around her like the very walls conspiring against them. As the roar of shadows reached a fever pitch, Samantha stood at the precipice. She could almost taste victory, but what would it cost her? Just then, a violent wave crashed through the hazy air, sending her spinning backward. The dread echoed in the pit of her stomach. What if she was wrong? What if nothing would save Evelyn from this terrifying nightmare? With her mind racing, a haunting thought clawed to the surface. If she prevailed, there would still be consequences. Could she bear the weight of those unmasked truths? As the primal scream pierced through the air, Samantha stumbled, her heart pounding frantically in her chest. She felt herself pull back, teetering between the edge of hope and despair. The shadow coiled tighter around her, whispering dark promises and sowing seeds of doubt. Would she find the strength to claim her past and fight for a friend, or would the darkness consume everything she held dear? The wavering connection to Evelyn dangled over an abyss, threatening to shatter into oblivion. The answer lay just beyond her grasp, swirling in the darkness, waiting to be revealed. Samantha's breath hitched in her throat as the shadow wrapped itself around her like a noose. She could feel its icy tendrils creeping into her mind, assaulting her with whispers of doubt. You don't really think you can save her, do you? You chose to leave when she needed you most. The memories were searing, fragments of their past twisted into a tormenting montage. Evelyn's laughter, a sound buried deep now, shattered under the weight of accusation. Each recollection clawed at her resolve. No. Samantha shouted defiantly, shaking her head as if trying to dislodge the darkness invading her mind. I won't let you twist my past. I came back to fight for her. The shadow recoiled momentarily, its furious growl rumbling like distant thunder. Fight? You think you can fight against your own failures? It sneered, the shadows undulating in eerie unison, almost mocking her. I'm not fighting against my failures. Her voice surged with fierce conviction. I'm fighting for Evelyn. For us. The energies crackled in the air, a palpable tension that swallowed every inch of the room. The walls, once flickering with shadows, began to tremble, as if they too had become sentient, caught in the throes of the battle between light and darkness. Just as hope flickered like a dying ember, Evelyn's voice pierced through the chaos, a glimmer of clarity breaking through the tendrils of despair. Samantha, please remember the promise we made. The words echoed in Samantha's heart, stirring something deep within her. Memories of pinky swears shared under a star-studded sky flooded her senses. They had vowed never to abandon one another, yet here she stood, trapped in a storm of uncertainty, fighting against the shadows of her past mistakes. Stay with me, Evelyn. Samantha shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony of war. Remember us? Remember our dreams? The creature halted, uncertainty flickering in its abyssal eyes. The battle of wills hung in the air. Samantha felt the connection surge once more, a fragile line stretching between her and the depths of despair. But then, the dark entity roared, its voice vibrating through her bones. She is mine. I have consumed her spirit. You cannot harness what is lost. A geyser of emotions surged through Samantha: fear, rage, love. With every fiber of her being, she fought against the suffocating grip of despair wrapping around her throat. You may have taken pieces, but you will never own her spirit. Evelyn is more than this darkness. She is light. Each word ignited a flash of brilliance that illuminated the dark chamber. The dark figure writhed, the connection between it and Evelyn flickering as if caught in a lightning storm. It was so close, she could almost reach through the veil of shadow and grasp Evelyn's hand. Fight with me, Evelyn. Use my strength. Samantha urged her, her voice trembling with fervor. The shadow let out a howl of rage, thrashing violently, attempting to sever the bond they were forming. The very air crackled with tension. Samantha felt her heart lurch. She couldn't let the darkness shatter the fragile thread that connected them. Suddenly, Evelyn's form surged forward, a glint of determination sparking within her eyes. I want to let you win," she cried, her voice breaking free from the confines of the shadow's grasp. Was that the turning point? Samantha's entire being responded to that flicker of strength. But the creature lashed out again, locking onto Samantha's mind, feeding on her fears. "You think she can fight me? This is where your love falters." A cry surged from her, the depths of her soul. "No. I want to let you take her from me." It echoed in the shadows, a battle cry that resonated with their shared history, fueling the light igniting between them. But as the light began to cut through the dark, something else stirred. An unsettling truth began to claw its way to the surface, raising questions more chilling than the shadows themselves. What if the darkness wasn't merely external? What if it lurked within her too? With a rush of energy, everything trembled as shadows pitched and rolled like stormy waves. As the climax of their struggle reached a breaking point, a new horror scratched at the edge of Samantha's mind. Would the darkness reveal a truth more terrifying than she had ever imagined? The very foundation of their bond threatened to splinter. Desperation clawed at her as the encompassing shadows whispered, fire riddled with intent, promising revelations that could change everything. What had she been hiding even from herself? Samantha's heart raced, panic melding with determination. The grotesque shadow loomed before her, a chaotic vortex threatening to pull her into its depths. It howled with anger, a cacophony of voices curdling in her ears. But through the din, she heard Evelyn's voice, a beacon amidst the turmoil. "Together, Samantha. We fight together." It resonated, urging her forward, paralyzing the fear that clung to her like a cold sweat. "That's right," Samantha shouted, finding strength in Evelyn's spirit. "You may think you own her. But she has me now, and together, we are stronger." The shadow shrieked, and for a moment, its form flickered. Shadows and light danced in a violent struggle, clinging on the precipice of hope and despair. Samantha was determined not to let fear shatter her resolve. She gathered everything she had, summoning every ounce of love for the girl she once knew so well. All those moments spent giggling, dreaming, planning futures together, it was as if Evelyn had never left. Then Evelyn's eyes found hers, and in that moment, a surge of energy coursed through them, binding their fates together. "I remember us. I remember the promise. I want to let the shadows consume me." The words flowed from Samantha, drowning out the darkness. "Evelyn, fight with me. We'll confront this together." With an echoing roar, the shadow lunged, but Samantha thrust her hands forward, channeling every ounce of light within her. "We will not be broken. We will live. We will be free." Light erupted between them, bursting like a supernova through the darkness, and for the first time, Samantha felt the shadow's grip begin to weaken. Evelyn's light merged with hers, creating a blinding force that pushed back against the encroaching blackness, revealing visions, flickering glimpses of their shared history, laughter, innocence, the brightness of youth that had been stolen away. But then, the darkness flickered, shifting gears, revealing its true nature. "You cannot escape your past," it screeched amidst the encroaching light. "All of those moments, those scars you hide, they will consume you." Samantha's breath hitched. The weight of her guilt bore down like a lead weight, memories flooding her mind, moments of abandonment. The last unanswered texts, the missed calls when Evelyn had needed her most. Terrified, she felt the darkness slithering through the cracks. "No," she countered, locking eyes with the shadow. "Evelyn deserves more than to be trapped because of my mistakes. We've both suffered. I took you for granted, but I'm here to fight for you. To fight for us." With that declaration, something shifted. Light surrounded them, illuminating the shadow's dark exterior, unveiling hints of a tragic figure beneath. Samantha surged forward, her courage breaking the threshold of fear. You don't own either of us. We are more than our past. We are hope. The shadow shrieked, thrashing violently, but it showcased cracks in its sinister veneer. In that moment of vulnerability, tagged lines from their childhood echoed across the void, whispers of dreams, promises made under the stars, together for eternity. The darkness recoiled, but Samantha wouldn't relent. You have no power over me, over her. You're an illusion birthed from fear. With one last effort, as black tendrils lashed towards her, she pushed every ounce of love and forgiveness she had, binding it to the energy that coursed through her veins. They aimed it directly at the shifting mass that once held her friend captive. An explosive burst shattered the air, a cascading wave of brightness overwhelming the shadows. The darkness wailed, unfurling like smoke caught in the wind. With every heartbeat, the cry faded. A radiant light erupted from the core, swallowing the oppressive darkness whole. Samantha fell to her knees as warmth embraced her, a gentle whisper of peace wrapping around her like a soft blanket. The house trembled, its sorrow merging with the releasing shadows. For a moment, she felt weightless, embraced by the purity of light. The darkness dissipated, removed from its dominion. Light radiated out, illuminating every corner of the room, casting away what once held them so tightly in fear. The air grew lighter, joyful even, as Samantha rose to her feet, finding Evelyn standing before her, her eyes shimmering with purity. We did it, Samantha breathed, overwhelmed with relief. The shadows had been defeated not through battle, but through connection and understanding. I could feel you, Samantha. I was lost, but you brought me home, Evelyn whispered, stepping closer. The room pulsed with energy, revealing a path to healing. Together they stepped toward the threshold of revelation, hand in hand. Let us keep this light alive, Samantha vowed, warmth enveloping them both. No more shadows, no more darkness. We'll shed the past together. As they walked hand in hand, leaving the nightmare behind, a new journey begun, one of hope, healing, and unconditional love. In the heart of a once haunted house, Samantha knew they had birthed a future unfettered by fear. They would rise from the ashes, stronger and unbreakable, forever united by a bond that transcended pain into boundless growth. And as she stepped out into the sunlight, Samantha's heart brimmed with excitement. This is just the beginning, she smiled at Evelyn, ready to face whatever light or darkness came their way. Together, now, incredible journeys and wild tales wait just around the corner. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next gripping story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and spark the adventure for someone else. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the light together.